my story literally was I shared just a few days ago 7.5 years, almost 7.5, but 7 years and 5 months migraine free, which is very significant for me. Um, I had started dealing with migraine headaches. They run in my family. I started at about 11 years old having my first migraine. And because they run in my family, I think everybody just thought it was normal, especially the women on my mom's side. So I just kind of thought, well, here they go. I'm a teenager, and now I'm going to be dealing with the same thing that women in my family have dealt with for decades. It might mean even back to my great grandma that we could think about. And so you think about things sometimes like it runs in the family, it's expected, and it's okay. You put up with it because it runs in your family. But yeah, and honestly, I just didn't know better. And by the time I hit my 30s, I was having so many migraines. And I mean the kind where you had to be in a dark room, couldn't, very light sensitive, you're nauseated, all the things that go with that. And they were debilitating. I really tried as many things possible that I could, I knew to do. I was trying all kinds of different supplements. I was reading fast and furious, anything that I could to try to be proactive about it. I also had friends that were chiropractors. I'd seen acupuncturist, massage therapy, all the things that you would think would be maybe directly correlated to that. And I just couldn't get on top of it. In fact, I ended up going to the Mayo Clinic and literally seeking out a migraine specialist and thinking, okay, this has to be the answer.
How old
And
were you?
by the time I had done that, I was in my 40s by the time I had ended up at the Mayo Clinic. And I mean, it was just, they were so, I would wake up with more days having migraines, it felt, than I didn't. And it's amazing what you put up with. It's amazing what you start to get used to, and just push through it, because I really didn't have any other options. There were days literally that I couldn't push through it. There was no pushing through it. I hurt all the time. But you don't really realize how much it taxes your life. It, affects it socially. I mean, just in every way, work, all the things. But even at the Mayo Clinic, they were giving me prescription medications, and my body would get used to one prescription in about 2 weeks, and then we'd have to move on to another prescription to just try to stay on top of it. And I was so discouraged. I mean, if anybody's ever dealt with them, they know it can just be, if you cannot get rid of something, it's so frustrating. But at that stage in the game, they diagnosed me chronic. And chronic means, in the migraine world, if you have more than 15 days a month of migraines, then you are chronic. And so I ended up just there I was. And so the happy part to the story for me was I was introduced to activation. And when I was introduced to activation, there was no correlation explained to me at all to migraines. I saw actually an ABC primetime report on an activator that literally had me sit up and take notice from a prevention standpoint. I in no way thought that there would be any correlation at all to migraines, but what caught my attention was that the NRF2 activator, it's clinically proven to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. And when you see the research and you see the science, for me, that was a no-brainer. I wanted to do everything I could from just a preventative standpoint.
Can you explain to people, like, in case they don't know what oxidative stress is, can you explain what that is and why we should be aware of what it is?
Yeah. Oxidative stress is something that affects all of us as we are around different elements, different toxins, which can come in all kinds of forms. It can come in forms of EMFs. It can come in forms of physical stress, emotional stress. It's in the foods we eat. It's in the air we breathe. It's just toxins that start to break down cells, creating oxidative stress. And that really, to me, as I was learning about it, it was explained to me, was really acts like inflammation, like cellular inflammation. And I mean, if you realize that we all deal with it, it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, first of all, but also it's very hopeful that there's something out there that can reduce it. And it was interesting because some of the ingredients that are in that main activator, that nerve 2 activator, there's 5 key ingredients like milk thistle, bacopa, ashwagandha, green tea, and turmeric. And I absolutely had taken several of those on my own without noticing any difference. But it's the synergistic blend of those 5 key ingredients that flip a switch in your cells to turn on that antioxidant factory, which then wipes out that oxidative stress and reduces inflammation. And um, much to my surprise, within 2 weeks, I absolutely noticed I had not even had a migraine from taking it, just from a preventative standpoint. In fact, I was texting a few people that also started taking it about the same time. There were several of us, and I said, has anybody in this group ever noticed that it, or ever dealt with migraines, and it's helping with that? And one gentleman responded back and he said, I have dealt with them for most of my life, and I too am noticing that I'm not having any issues anymore. And so I was so excited, and honestly, that's where it began, just the awareness of it. And I was so used to having them just almost on the daily that every day I woke up thinking, okay, when is the ball going to drop? When are they going to return? And I can tell you now, I literally am 7 years and 5 months migraine free. And that is when I first started taking the activator. And I'll tell you, there's many other things that have come along with that that have been real surprises to me. So you want me to share that a little bit?
Yeah,
Even?
of course. If
Okay.
anyone has any questions, just feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll get to those.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, much to my surprise, again, I was taking this from a prevention standpoint and feeling so much better. I started sleeping much deeper, waking up feeling very refreshed in the morning, which was really a wonderful surprise to me. So that was something noticeable. And I always encourage people, when you start taking, or when you start activation, make note of what you felt like before, because some of these things literally you don't notice until later on. But that was one thing that I noted. But about 2.5, 3 months in, I started to have something really awesome happen. I had had a snowboarding injury about 10 years before. And if anybody's watching this and they've ever dealt with just an old injury that kind of creeps up, I had a lot of soft tissue damage behind my right knee and in my left shoulder. And I was taking I was doing what the doctors were telling me: take the anti-inflammatories, ice and heat, just doing all the things, because it was constantly inflamed, constantly irritated. In fact, my knee had gotten so bad, I really had to stop working out in the gym. Every time I would do like leg presses and squats and things like that, it hurt so bad. It was a wincing pain. And my shoulder had become so sore and so irritated constantly that there was nothing that was helping it. And the anti-inflammatories that I was taking was tearing my stomach apart. So I was really in a mess. But I noticed about 2.5, 3 months in that I was not having any more pain in either my knee or my shoulder. In fact, my husband was noticing I was telling a story in the living room, telling him something funny that had happened in the day, and I was using my arms and I was being really animated in this story. And for the first time, I could move my shoulder like completely up and around and not have any pain whatsoever with it. I could squat down, no more pain whatsoever. So I could tell from a cellular level that that inflammation and oxidative stress was definitely being targeted, and feeling is believing. And I didn't know what to expect. And certainly, as we talk about it, we do not claim to cure, prevent, or mitigate any disease at all whatsoever. It was really interesting when you kind of cross-reference, though, and you go back to things like migraines, um, and you look up how they can directly be correlated to oxidative stress. If you reduce oxidative stress, you may find some relief. And certainly that has been my experience. And it's been awesome. And to my family, all of the females in my family that have dealt with migraines, because it's the cousins, it's the aunts, it's the whole shebang on my mom's side. Every one of them that's activated is no more dealing with migraines.
That
So
is so
yeah,
amazing.
really exciting. We are all elated, let me tell you.
Yeah. So when you were having like your migraines, like maybe in your teenage years or your 20s, like how was that? Did you have a job? Were you able to work? Or like, I just can't imagine, like, how did that all work?
It affected work for sure. It affected travel. There were a lot of things that I had to miss out on. You know, birthday parties, all kinds of things that I had to miss out on because I couldn't leave a dark room. Or work. I remember, you know, even as a young adult, really struggling to be at work, having to go home early, or days calling in sick because I literally could hardly get my head off the pillow. And if anybody's really dealt with, you know, serious migraines, it's debilitating. And it seems it's so different than just a headache, a regular headache. I mean, it's so debilitating. Light hurts your eyes. And you really can barely function. It's hard to even believe that I lived with them as long as I did. I look back at that time in my life, and it was a long time, but it really it affects your life. Oh my goodness! Hi, cutie.
I don't think you're gonna like this. I have Axio in there, and I have some
uh,
a little bit of like a fizz or something, and she don't want. Um, so you said 2 weeks after starting activation, you didn't have any more migraines. Haven't had any since.
haven't had any sense. And the interesting things is that, you know, certainly sharing this with others that have dealt with migraines, family included. There are a few that have had them, you know, on occasion come back, but there's a lot of different things that can trigger migraines. So if people deal with migraines, there's other things that you can be aware of. Food sensitivities, sugar. If you reduce inflammation in your diet and things that may increase inflammation, it really makes a difference. But I had tried all of those things. This was really the one thing that made all of the difference for me, and so it's really been a wonderful thing. But it's interesting what a lot of people will try. I mean, there's lots of different things. I have a really good friend that had seen and knew my story about the migraines, and she had reached out. She had read an article that you can get your ear pierced, like right in the upper cartilage of it. A lot of people will do that to try to alleviate migraine. And she was just getting ready to do that and had heard my story, and she gave activation a try, and it's completely changed her world as well. I know my sister used to have to get even Botox treatments in the back of her scalp. That's another way that some people will try to go after migraines. But when you have them, I mean, you'll try just about anything to get rid of them. But this has just been one of those really happy stories for me. And I think that the message I just want to share is, if you know you're watching this and it's something that you've struggled with, give activation a try, because it just changes so much. And Sarah, I want to tell you that at the beginning, so about 7.5 years ago, when I first learned about activation, the NRF2 activator was the only one available. But since then, it was a few years later, they developed an NRF1 activator, which increases mitochondria production in every cell. And I'll tell you, that has been wonderful as well. When I added that in on top of the NRF2 activator, I noticed just an increase even in my energy. um, just the brightness that I felt. And I really felt like it even increased the effectiveness of that nerve too. And it makes sense because if you're increasing mitochondria, that energy, it's going in the cell, it's going to make it even more receptive when you combine that with the nerve too. So
Right.
it's been wonderful.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, let us know. Um, and I wanted to ask you, Marilee, if anyone wants more information or wants to share a little bit of their story, is it okay with you if I would make a group with like me and you and the other person
I'd
then?
be happy to help. Honestly, just know there's hope. Know that there's help. Know there's hope. And you don't have to live with migraines. It's just an amazing experience to not standing on the other side of it. So, yes, please. I would love to help in any way, answer any questions.
Okay. So do you feel like, in a sense, like you're actually living your life now?
Absolutely. Living life activated is the best way to live. I honestly wish, I say it all the time, I wish I would have discovered this years ago. What a difference it would have made, and so many things that I missed out on then. I'm not missing out on now. And I feel like I'm making up for lost time, trying to just travel as much as I can. That was another thing it really affected. I just couldn't travel. When we would travel somewhere, even just flying would really trigger them, all of the things. And so now feeling like, honestly, feeling like I'm living my best life. And that's just what I want to share. It's possible. If it can happen for me, it can happen for you.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we might wrap this up. Again, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. I know it will help a lot of people. And again, we are not here to treat, cure, or prevent any disease. And any questions, let us know, and we will reach out to you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good
You
day.
too. Bye bye.